Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're plunging straight into some really fundamental concepts, potentially mind-bending ones, actually.
Definitely.
We're talking about consciousness, identity, and, that feeling we all have of free will.
That very elusive feeling, yeah.
Our starting point is this fascinating article from Big Think by Diana Chapman Walsh called Free Will and the Illusion of the Self.
Mm.
And our mission really is to unpack her perspective. It's quite challenging, this idea that our sense of a solid self and even our experience of free will might just be, well, illusions.
Skillfully constructed illusions created by our own brains.
Exactly. So get ready, because we're hoping to give you a shortcut to understanding this, maybe with some surprising facts along the way. It might change how you think about, well, you.
It certainly makes you think.
Okay, so let's start with what feels normal. We all have this deep sense of ourselves, right? This solid, unchanging I.
Yeah, the feeling is undeniable.
Like a fixed thing with a history, an identity, preferences. It just feels real.
It absolutely does feel real. That intuition is incredibly powerful.
Right.
But when you look at the neuroscience,
Oh, okay.
it suggests that this feeling, this sense of a solid, unchanging I, it's actually biologically a bit misleading.
Misleading how?
Well, it's a strong perception, definitely, but maybe not an accurate picture of what's really going on under the hood, so to speak.
Right.
We tend to think of ourselves as these fixed entities, like rocks, almost, static. But the more we understand the brain, the clearer it becomes that we're much more like dynamic processes, constantly changing, moment by moment. We're in flux.
So not a rock, more like something else.
Exactly. The article uses this great metaphor.
Oh, yeah.
The self is more like an ocean wave than a rock.
Ah, I like that. Constantly moving, changing shape, interacting with everything around it.
Precisely. It's a continuous flow, not something solid and unchanging. Your brain isn't a static object either.
Right, it's always working.
It's an ongoing process, always interacting with the world. And think about this if your brain activity changes. Say, you become unconscious, or even just shift from one thought to the next.
Your experience changes, too.
Your whole experience of self shifts, too. This happens every time you fall asleep,
Yeah.
or even just, zone out daydreaming.
Okay, I see.
So that feeling we have of being this continuous, separate, autonomous person making free choices.
Yeah.
In essence, according to this view, it's kind of neurocognitive hallucination, a story our brain tells itself and tells us.
Wow, a neurocognitive hallucination. That's quite a phrase. So if the self is more like this dynamic wave, this process, what does that then mean for free will? For those choices we feel like we were making, they seem totally tied together.
They are absolutely tied together. You could almost say they're two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
We feel like there's a self somehow outside the normal cause and effect of nature, a self that can just step in and, freely make choices.
Right, like I'm the captain of the ship.
Exactly. But that feeling, it fundamentally clashes with what we're learning about how decisions actually bubble up from the brain's processes. A big part of the confusion comes down to how we define free will. We usually think it means conscious control. Like, my conscious I is the one calling the shots.
That's the everyday feeling, for sure. So if it's not my conscious self making the call first, what is neuroscience showing us? How do decisions actually happen? This is where it gets really interesting, right?
It really does. Neuroscience is basically showing that our choices often arise unconsciously before we are aware of them.
Before?
Yeah, your brain has already started the process, set things in motion, before your conscious mind kind of catches up and becomes aware of the decision.
Is there evidence for that? Like concrete evidence?
Definitely. There was this study, I think, back in 2013. Researchers could actually predict whether participants would choose to add or subtract some number.
Predict their choice.
Yes, predicted up to 4 seconds before the participants themselves consciously felt they'd made the decision.
4 seconds. That's a long time in brain terms. It feels almost spooky, like my brain knows what I'm going to do before I do.
It is a bit unsettling, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it broadens how we need to think about decision-making. It's not just conscious deliberation.
So it's more of a natural process.
Exactly. Think about something really simple, like a pea tendril wrapping around a branch.
Okay.
Is the tendril deciding to wrap? Well, in its own way, yes. It senses light, senses touch, position, and it acts. It's a basic form of sensing and acting within nature.
A biological response.
Right. And human decision-making, okay, it's vastly more complex, obviously, but fundamentally, it's still part of nature's cause and effect web. It's not happening outside of that.
So there's no little CEO in my head.
Haha, no. There's no magical decider inside us, no little person pulling levers. Choices emerge from these huge, complex networks of conditions. Your beliefs, your past experiences, your current brain state.
The environment interact.
All interacting. And none of those factors are entirely free from prior causes themselves. It's all interconnected, a whole system at play.
That makes sense. It feels less like magic and more like biology and physics.
Kind of, yeah.
So if we dive deeper into the brain itself, how does neuroscience actually let us see this self-illusion in action? Are there specific brain regions or networks involved?
Yes, absolutely. One really key network is called the default mode network, the DMN.
The DMN.
This is like your brain's me network. It's most active when you're mind-wandering, thinking about yourself, your past, your future, worrying, planning. Basically, constructing that narrative sense of I.
The internal monologue generator.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It's strongly linked to that continuous feeling of being a self. Now, what's really interesting is what happens when this network quiets down.
How does that happen?
Well, certain activities are known to do this. Deep meditation is a classic example.
Right.
Or people report similar effects from, say, psychedelic experiences. When the DMN activity decreases,
What do people feel?
they often report these profound feelings of unity with the world, a sense of connection, and often a loss of ego, or a dissolving of that typical self-boundary.
So the me feeling fades.
It seems to, yeah. And the idea is that this isn't just a weird feeling. It might actually be revealing a truer picture of our existence,
True or how?
showing us that we're not these isolated, separate selves, but rather deeply integrated parts of nature. In those moments, the boundary we usually perceive between self and world literally gets blurry.
You get a direct experience of being connected.
Exactly. Like in meditation, or those flow states athletes talk about, the self-consciousness just drops away.
Okay, so the DMN gives us a window into the constructed nature of the self. But what about continuity? That feeling that I'm the same person I was yesterday or last year. Memory must play a huge role there too, right?
Absolutely vital. Our sense of being a continuous self also arises from memory stitching moments together.
Stitching them together.
Yeah, it's our brain's amazing ability to take past experiences, link them to the present moment, and then project possibilities into the future. That's what creates the feeling of a continuous me moving through time.
Like creating a story.
Precisely. A narrative identity. If you could only experience each moment completely fresh, totally disconnected, without memory linking them,
That sense of a consistent self would probably just evaporate.
it would significantly weaken, at the very least, maybe vanish entirely.
Yeah.
It's the narrative thread of memory that gives us that strong feeling of being an I that persists over time.
This is all genuinely fascinating, understanding the mechanics behind it. But let's talk about the impact. So what? Why does understanding that the self and free will might be illusions matter in our everyday lives? Or even for society?
Well, there are potentially profound psychological benefits. Realizing you're not in complete conscious control of every single thought or emotion that pops into your head, that can actually be incredibly liberating.
Liberating. How so?
It can take a huge weight off. Instead of constantly battling your thoughts or feelings like sadness or anger, or blaming yourself endlessly for having them,
Yeah.
you can start to observe them as arising processes, like weather patterns in your mind. They come, they go. They're products of complex conditions, not necessarily you failing.
So less self-blame.
Exactly. It can significantly reduce self-blame and internal struggle. You shift from fighting yourself to observing the process.
That shift seems really powerful personally. What about more broadly? Thinking about society, things like moral responsibility and compassion. If there's no fixed, freely choosing self, that changes things, doesn't it?
It could potentially fundamentally shift how we approach concepts like justice, blame, and punishment.
How?
Well, if we really take on board that other people also don't have this central fixed self that's totally free from all the causes that led to their actions, maybe our perspective on harmful behavior changes.
Okay.
Think about it like this. You wouldn't get genuinely morally angry at a tornado for causing destruction, right?
No, it's a natural phenomenon.
Right. It acts according to natural laws.
Huh.
So similarly, if we see harmful human behavior as arising from this incredibly complex web of conditions, brain states, genetics, upbringing, environment, trauma, beliefs, maybe society could focus less purely on retribution and punishment and more on understanding and rehabilitation, trying to address the conditions.
That's a big shift.
It is. The article uses another analogy. If a self-driving car malfunctions and harms someone,
You don't blame the car morally.
Exactly. You analyze the system, you look for bugs in the code, sensor failures, flawed algorithms. You try to fix the system to prevent it from happening again.
Right.
So the provocative question becomes, could we and should we apply a similar kind of systematic, maybe even compassionate analysis to understanding human actions rather than just assigning blame to a ghost in the machine?
That's a really powerful question to ponder. So, if we wrap this up, the core idea is that the self and free will, as we typically experience them, are these incredibly rich, emergent experiences.
Yes, experiences that our brains construct, they're useful, absolutely.
Yeah.
They help us navigate the world, make plans, interact socially.
But they're ultimately not what they appear to be.
They're not the fixed, independent, fully in control entities we usually feel they are.
Yeah.
They're more like processes, outcomes of incredibly complex systems.
Yeah.
And understanding this, really internalizing it, even a little bit, can open up entirely new ways of seeing yourself, seeing other people, seeing reality itself.
How so?
It might encourage us to view ourselves less as these isolated agents kind of struggling alone and more as well as expressions of a vast, dynamic universe, interconnected parts of a whole.
It definitely makes you wonder, doesn't it? If you start looking at things through this lens, what shifts might happen in your own perspective? How might you observe your own thoughts, your feelings, your interactions differently? Something to think about.